Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I am so excited for this video. I've been planning this for a while. Basically, you guys know that I love romance. Obviously, I have an entire readathon dedicated to romance. And I know that a lot of you guys follow me specifically for the romance books that I read. Since I read such like a wide variety of books, I wanted like one specific place or video that I could share with you guys all of my romance books. So from now on, every other Sunday is going to be Romance Sunday, where I am talking about romance books. Some weeks I might do like a specific romance topic, like enemies to lovers romances. Another week I might do like my most anticipated romance books. But for today's video, I am going to be sharing with you my favorite romances of 2019 so far. So far in 2019, I have read, I believe, 56 books, and out of those 56, 23 of them have been adult romance. Out of those 23, 4 of them have been my favorites. I was trying to figure out like commonalities between these 4 books, and it was really difficult because they are all so different. So I guess let's just talk about them. There's no particular order. I really don't know which out of these 4 is like my top favorite. That's not true. I actually do know. But most of them are pretty much on the same level in terms of how much I just loved them. So the first one I'm going to talk about is The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. This one I feel like is the most contemporary romance, kind of more so leaning onto like the chick lit side, although I hate the term chick lit. But I don't know how else to describe that. This is a little bit less romancy than the other ones, but the romance is still a very big part of this book. This is about a girl who finds out that her father, who she has been pretty much estranged from her entire life, is sick and dying. So she travels to Alaska to see him for the first time in a very long time. And while she's there, she meets Jonah, who is a pilot who works for her father and also his next door neighbor. They're very close, and Jonah and her just immediately don't like each other. They don't hit it off. They're very different people. Calla is kind of like an Instagram influencer, sort of like she has a lifestyle blog and she's very like into fashion and photography and that kind of stuff, whereas Jonah is like a wilderness man. I pictured him as kind of being like a lumberjack almost, and they're just as different as people can be, and they don't hit it off, and Jonah kind of does everything in his power to make her life miserable. But I really loved their romance because I feel like there's different tiers under enemies to lovers, and this one was more like they just had really bad first impressions and then built these ideas about each other around those first impressions, and then as they got closer they realized that they misjudged each other and they actually have a lot more in common and they actually like each other. But I think the thing that made me love this book so much and feel such an emotional attachment to it was the relationship between Calla and her father. They have an estranged relationship. They haven't seen or spoken to each other in a very long time, and throughout this book she is kind of dealing with her resentment over him basically abandoning her, and also realizing that she doesn't have a lot of time left. It made me feel a lot of things. I've talked before on my channel about how daddy issues really fuck me up. I loved this. I gave it 5 stars. I gave all these books 5 stars, that's kind of a given, but I really loved this book. So the next book is I believe the most recent one that I've read. I'm actually really excited because it is one of the August Book of the Month picks. It technically doesn't come out until September. You can get it right now through Book of the Month. And that is Well Met by Jen DeLuca. This is a debut novel. This was hands down the cutest romance that I've read this year. There's been a lot of like, I feel romances in this category, you know, that have these illustrated covers and that are very like rom-com-y and really cute. And out of all of those that I've read so far this year, this was hands down my favorite. So basically, this is a romance that takes place in a Ren fair, a Renaissance festival. The main character moves in with her sister and her niece because her sister was in a car accident and needs help, you know, like around the house and taking care of her niece. And one of the things that she has to do is sign up for this Ren fair because her niece really wants to join the fair but needs an adult chaperone to join with her. So Emily kind of gets roped into doing it even though she really doesn't want to do it. And the first day at signups, she meets Simon, who runs the Ren fair, and very similar, I guess, to this one. They have very bad first impressions of each other and just immediately dislike each other because of those first impressions. Simon's family do the whole Ren fair and he's very, very serious about it, like intensely serious. And Emily obviously like has never been in a Ren fair before. She doesn't really know what it is. She doesn't really want to be there. So he just dislikes her for that. And then she dislikes him because he has a stick up his ass. In the Ren fair, they have characters that they're playing, and Emily's character is a tavern wench and Simon's character is a pirate captain. As they're acting like in the Ren fair, their characters have a romance. So for the rest of the summer during the Ren fair, they have to act like they are together. Their characters are in love, but they, like personally, outside of the fair, do not like each other. We go from like being in the Ren fair and having Pirate Simon saying like the most like swoon-worthy things to Emily, and then as soon as the Ren fair is over, he goes back to being like this stuck-up, buttoned-up English teacher. She is so confused. She doesn't know what's real and what is acting. She doesn't know if she has feelings for the pirate or actually feelings for Simon. It is so good, and hands down the best part of this book is the Ren fair setting. It is so much fun, and this book is also so funny. I just really loved this, and I was so impressed at how great it was for a debut. The next one is Vicious by LJ Shen. This was my favorite romance of the year until I read the next book I'm going to talk about. This book is so good. Out of all of these books, I feel like this might be the most polarizing because it is a bully romance. This takes place over two timelines. One of them is when the characters are in high school, and then the other one I believe is like 10 or 11 years later. It follows Amelia and Vicious. Vicious comes from a very rich family, and Amelia's parents work for his family on their estate. Her mother is like the maid, and her father does like grounds work. They live on the property, and one day Amelia goes into the main house and accidentally walks in on something that she shouldn't, and because of that, Vicious thinks that she learned his like deepest, darkest secret, and he is intent on keeping her silent and making her life miserable. And all through high school, he really like bullies her. Like, he's an asshole. He does really mean things to her. Close to graduation, he basically does something to make her leave town, and she does. So now it is like 10 or 11 years later, and Amelia is very down on her luck. She lost her job, and she is taking care of her younger sister who is sick, and they need money for rent and medicine. And suddenly Vicious shows up with a job offer to be his assistant, and Amelia really does not want to take it, but she kind of has no other options. So she becomes his assistant, and yeah. The sex scenes in this book were 11 out of 10. Incredible. Fireworks. Amazing. If you like The Cruel Prince and you like the vibe between Cardan and Jude, that is basically what this is. Vicious and Cardan, I swear to God, are the same exact person. This is totally Cardan in the mortal realm, which I think is partially why I loved it so much, because I really love Cardan. I really liked how we went back and forth between the past storyline and the present storyline, because there was some things that happened in the past that are only alluded to in the present, and so you're like trying to figure out what happened between Amelia and Vicious and why she fled town, why they hate each other so much. Definitely make sure you're going into it knowing that it is a bully romance and Vicious is not a great person at the beginning. Yeah, I loved it. Like I said, Vicious was my favorite romance of the year, but then I read this next book. So that book is A Lesson in Thorns by Sierra Simone. First of all, I can't look at this cover for too long because it makes me blush. Basically, in the prologue of this book, we're following these 6 children, and they're all friends and they're hanging out for the summer. Their parents are all connected to each other. They discover this like old rundown chapel, and they go into it and they have like a little fake wedding ceremony, and then it cuts to 12 years later. So it's now 12 years later and these 6 kids are all grown up and they've all gone their separate ways, but something brings them back to Thornhill Manor. The guy who owns the manor, Auden, he brings everybody back together, and it's basically like the most polyamorous romance. The 6 of them all are just like so intertwined and have relationships and feelings with all of them. It is so diverse. The author has said that all of them identify as bisexual. One of them is Mexican, another one is plus size, there's a black woman. There's just like a lot of diversity. That's what I can remember off the top of my head, but I think there's more. The writing in this was so good. It has this very like gothic feel. It takes place in this like old manor. The setting is very gothic, and then the writing is also just like super beautiful, and it adds to this kind of eerie feeling throughout the whole book. And oh my god, the sex scenes in this book blew my mind. There's a spin the bottle scene that is hands down the hottest thing I have ever read, and there was no actual sex happening. Like, it was all just foreplay, but it was everyone that I have talked to about this book, I immediately asked them what their feelings were about the spin the bottle scene, because it was so much to handle. In this book, there's like so many relationships. There's male-male, there's female-female, there's male-female, there's male-male-female. Like, there's so many different pairings and ships. Definitely feel like this reminded me a lot of Strange Grace by Tessa Gratton, which was my favorite book of last year. Except this is that, but erotic. I've also heard people compare it to The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I haven't read that, but I definitely want to read it now. Oh my god, I loved this. And the sequel comes out tomorrow, and the cover just like blew my mind as well. So those are my favorite romances of 2019 so far. Please let me know in the comments if you have any other suggestions for Romance Sunday videos you want me to do, if there's any romance topics or specific books you want me to read. Let me know. I'm open to so many ideas. Also, at the end of all of my Romance Sunday videos, I'm going to recommend another romance reader for you to follow. So the person I am going to recommend today is Remarkably Lisa. I was first aware of her on Bookstagram. I think that's where she is the most known, but she very recently started a booktube channel and I'm obsessed with her videos. She is so funny. She reads a ton of romance. I always get recommendations from her. So definitely check her out. I will leave all her links down below. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!